think I'll start off with a question that I'm sure is on the minds of most of the folks sitting out in the audience, and that would be, how do they get from there to where you guys are, and you know, or how did you get from there to here?
Actually, Hugh Marlowe was a huge help. I'll back up a little bit, but during college summers, I was very fortunate to be able to swing doing internships. So I did, back before the internet, there was a book in the College Career Center called 100 Best Internships. So one summer I did one at the Kennedy Center in DC. Next summer I did one at Hill Holiday and Ad Firm. And it really gave me a sense of, okay, I don't want to do special events, but I know what it is now. I'm kind of liking this advertising world. I think that's a path that makes sense for me. So after I graduated, I was an English major here. We didn't really have the sort of database that Middlebury has now that, you know, you can plug in, I'm moving to San Francisco, bring me up the list. That was really cute. So I just emailed him. I was living in Chicago, and he was kind enough to send me a list of, these are the folks who are mid-alums who worked in advertising. And I contacted them with my resume because they could understand some of the aspects of my resume that were highlights for me, but to the general public might not, you know, community council. Is that a big deal, not a big deal? Who knows? So definitely internships helped me tremendously to sort of narrow down the field. And then relying on the Middlebury network was the other big part of me getting the foot through the door.
It was a long, tortuous process. You know, being an English major, I do find, I think English majors can go pretty much anywhere they want. If you can learn how to convey what you're thinking and to do it in a way before people get bored, I think you'll go pretty far. For me, I think it also started out, I mean, I had crammed a lot of English credits and courses into probably less, 2 years or less, because I started out as a chemistry major. Then I took my junior year abroad and I went to England, to King's College in London, and I had most of my credits there. When I came back, I had to finish off the degree, and I was pretty much out the door. So I really overdosed on writing and communicating verbally. So I was very interested in photography, and my first internship, or the first thing I did out of school, was I interned at the Aperture Foundation, which is still in New York City. Great place for photography, for art photography. Of course, being a nonprofit, you don't make a lot of money, and in New York, you really need to make enough to cover, you know, where you're living and to be able to buy something to eat every now and then. So I did a lot of things. I proofread at a number of publishers. I proofread for Double with Solely, proofreading indexes, Avon books, proofreading romances, westerns, you name it, I proofread it, and I did that at night after my day job. I also worked for a gallery when I got out of school, and I was an art handler, which basically means you get to, you know, hack art, you get to move it, you can install it, frame it, you know, all that kind of great stuff. And, you know, in the late 80s, early 90s, contemporary art was picking up, and you know, I could get some, make a few bucks doing that. But I guess all of that kind of, you know, led to my interest in many different things, which a liberal arts education also does. And if you want a real catch-all career, you should be a journalist, because that's something that I have a sense that nothing will ever go to waste. At some point, I'm going to resuscitate things that I've learned or met, people I've met, or, you know, topics that I've come across. So it was a long process. I ended up going to graduate school, went to Columbia for the graduate school of journalism. They teach a lot of great skills now for digital media, audio, for camera work. I've been back there more recently than I've been back here, so I don't know actually what else is going on here at Middlebury. Maybe somebody can speak up and let me know.
I
think it's important to what you're saying, that you have to take almost every opportunity that comes to you if you want to be in media, because it is highly competitive. And if you want it bad enough, I think there's a lot of opportunities. But I feel like, coming out of Middlebury, the great thing is that you have a very diverse background because it's liberal arts. So you know about whether it be photography or modern dance or Islamic even culture. You should use all of those interests. It doesn't mean you have to be like, I'm a journalist, that's all I care about, I want to write. It's great to sort of tap into all those interests. So when you do go on an interview or you want to pitch a story for the first time, they want to know that you have, like, if you know how to speak more than one language, if you have a background that's unique, I think that so you're going to be hungry. I mean, you have to go out there and you have to really be willing to take almost, I think I took so many crazy jobs, and I would write for anybody. I mean, I would write for my local hometown newspaper when I got out of college because you need clips. I think that's a big thing, which, talk about later, but clips are basically, it's like your tangible thing, look what I've done. And they don't necessarily want you to have clips from, like, you don't need to have the Wall Street Journal or Vogue. You could have your small hometown paper or the Burlington newspaper. Anything that shows, like, look, I'm out there, I'm trying, I'm looking for stories. I mean, I think that could start right now. I mean, you don't have to wait till you graduate. It demonstrates to the people that you need to prove yourself to that you are hungry from, like, the get-go. Because it is very competitive, but it doesn't mean that, there isn't room for people to find a place wherever it may be.
Well, the other thing about journalism is there's always a deadline. And I think that was good for me because I'm ending things late. And I wait till the last minute, so when you have a firm, hard deadline, you kind of get your project done. And,
one other thing that I would tack on, though, one of the things when you're talking about clips, when I was on the account service side in advertising, one thing that was really important for me was to build a portfolio. Even though I wasn't a creative per se, meaning an art director or a copywriter, I worked on new business pitches and I developed literally a portfolio that when I eventually went on interviews, I could bring and sort of show, yes, I was this liberal arts person, but I know what I'm talking about in this world. So I think, clips or whatever it is to sort of build it so you've done the research and you can sort of back it up with something, it'll help you tremendously.
And as you kind of move on your career, your portfolio gets better. So you can swap stuff out and swap new stuff in. So I mean, one of my first writing gigs was for Middlebury Magazine. When I graduated, I would just pitch to Middlebury Magazine all the time. And so I would come up, and so I had those great clips. And like, not that I've swapped them out, but I mean, those were my first clips, and they were great. They were great to have in my portfolio. It's like, this is a legitimate magazine, and it showed, what I was doing. And then as you kind of develop, you get better ones. But yeah, your portfolio, I think, is